Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon, and you can find me at shannonstudio.com. And but here we talk about a creative life, and I usually give a creative life tip, something that will hopefully inspire you to be more creative or to think more creatively, think different. So that's what we do here. What we did tonight on Monday nights for people of my faith around the world, we have what is called a family night. So we call it family home evening, family night. It's a night you can get together, and families do it different all over. I mean, there's no like prescribed thing. I mean, we say our church leaders talk about do a prayer, do a lesson, but basically spend time with your family. Talk about the gospel and be together. So we've had this, and we've done it with our kids for years. I have to say over 30 years. So tonight was our family night. And yesterday, Joseph was playing with airplanes, making airplanes. He'd been on a paper boat kick, and we filled the tub up several times in the last couple weeks, and he has then floated the boats in the bathtub. And now he was on a paper airplane. So he was playing it and talking about how we should go outside and we should, fly him. And then he brought up we could do it for family night. And I said, great. And then I was like, what we could do, we live in a 2-story plus a basement. So I said, we could go up to the 2nd story and fly them out the window and then try to land them in, like these little circle things. So he loved that idea. So he's been planning all day long. He made these little cutout things, strips to, fly airplanes in. And I didn't take any photos. It was too cute, but I forgot to. So he set that up outside. Then he made paper airplanes today, and he's been talking about it. And so we went upstairs tonight and flew the planes out, and we just laughed. And, because some of the planes went straight, none of them hit in the circles or the areas. They weren't nice circles. They were just like little areas. And then some of them just like would take off and go around the corner. And so we just laughed and had this great time. And for me, I've always, and then Joseph wanted to do it some more, and Alan's like, no, it's cold. Then even Alan gave in again and said, okay, let's do it. And we each had like 3 or 4 airplanes, and so it was really, really fun. But I've always been of the attitude that spontaneity or times usually have to be planned. I mean, they can be spontaneous, but a lot of times it's a planned moment. To me, it's like chaos and hurt feelings and those kinds of things are spontaneous. They just seem to show up whether you want them or not. But really fun times, in my experience, has been you plan them. You take the time and you plan it. And that's just always been my philosophy. And so I was, reading about spontaneity and creativity and that sort of thing. And I came across Creative Calling, the book Creative Calling by Jarvis. And he was talking about creativity. And he was talking about it's being spontaneous, and that he had this idea growing up that you can't, I'll just read what you can't program creativity, I thought. It should be spontaneous. I'd work only when I felt inspired by magical forces from above and do whatever I wanted with the rest of my time. So, and he continues, creativity wasn't about discipline, it was about freedom, right? So that idea of, and I think a lot of us have that idea that, it's just like this, we sit down and we have this just thing come up, overflow us, and it's going to be beautiful when I produce it. And in fact, I was reading one of the blogs that I am part of, and one of the gals on there was wondering what to do about the blank page when you sit down to some work and there's the blank page and you don't know what to do. And she was so frustrated, and then the feed, the comments in the feed kind of added that frustration, that a lot of people feel that frustration. And part of me thought about that we think it just should come to us, and we're waiting for it to arrive to us before we actually act. So Chase Jarvis goes on to say, in reality, this romantic myth has next to nothing in common with the working methods of professionals in any field, especially the creative ones. So he's talking about that thought of creativity is spontaneous, and I'll wait for it to come and then I'll work, and the other times I'll just kind of do whatever I want. And I love that idea, mind you. I love that myth. Hey, Trisha. I love that myth of being able to just wait until inspiration hits me, and then I'll sit down and work. And the rest of the time I can just play and everything. And it is a romantic myth. And I like the romantic myth, but that's not a reality. He says, what gets results? Establishing a consistent creative practice and sticking to it. So that idea, and I think the same with the gals today on the group I'm part of, it's, you know what, sit down and make stuff and start making marks and doing stuff, regardless if you feel like it, regardless if it turns out pretty, regardless. That is what a working creative does. We just sit down and we consistently do work. And so then he talked about a story of Brandon Stanton, who had flunked out of college, and that he moved to Chicago, became a bond trader, became totally obsessed with his job because it was his identity, and he was being, fairly successful at it. And so he started to take this on, obsess over it, do all these things. But in order to relieve some pressure, he would go out every once in a while and take photographs of the landscape and of people on public transit. So he would take those photographs. And then at one point he got fired. He got fired from his job. And then all of a sudden, he said he had this epiphany. He said, I had, and this is in Chase Jarvis's book too. He said, I had this epiphany. My mind was empty, and his mind was empty, and he could fill it with anything and to go anywhere. So it was just this like empty slate. And he said the sense of freedom that was inspired in him was intoxicating. He never wanted it to end. And I think I could totally, get into that. But he said he made it his goal from that moment forward to spend his time doing what brought him joy. He was tired of promising himself he would get to be creative and live the life he wanted to live one day. I mean, that is bold. That is bold to, because he's out of a job. He doesn't have a buffer of a big savings. He doesn't have a plan to go in the future. And so to have that happen and then to consciously choose a bold move where you're going to pursue things that bring you happiness. That is, that's kind of spontaneous. But I really like that. I really liked he told that he could do that. So then he decided, okay, he has an idea. He's going to start taking a photo project, and that he's going to take pictures of 10,000 New Yorkers and portraits, and he would sell his landscape photos in order to support that. So then he goes off, sublets an apartment, sleeps in a mattress, and just kind of does this. And so he starts every day posting a photograph. And a couple months into it, nobody's really caring. Nobody is really, no comments, no likes, no, very little. And he was feeling a little discouraged, but he kept thinking about it, and he had one more in his queue to post. And he remembered a story that a lady said, and she said to him in the conversation they had, she said, I used to go through different stages, But then I found that I was happiest when I was green. So I've been green for 15 years. And he was intrigued by that. He put that with the caption with the photograph, and then that was the turning point, I think, for him in realizing people were interested in stories of other people. And so then it took off, and then it became Humans of New York. And there's a book, and he's got like 9.9 million followers on Instagram, and it's a thing. It became an iconic thing. I remember one of my kids bought the book Humans of New York. And a couple thoughts, all because he decided to go after joy he was doing, because he kept thinking for 2 years previously, I'll keep doing this so that I can do my real passion photography later on, one day. Sometimes catalysts happen in our lives to force us to do something different, and having that forced on us sometimes helps us to choose something that we've put off choosing because of the safety net, because of, various reasons. And the reasons make sense. I mean, I'm not saying they don't, but so that's, one thought. Now, I kind of went looking for him to kind of study him a little bit more. And what's interesting to me is that I think the money that he earns from Humans of New York, he doesn't earn. I mean, those are free stories he puts on, and I don't think he earns any more money from that. But he does have something else, which I find also fascinating, is that he has another website with his name where he talks about more personal view. Because Humans of New York are about stories about other people, he says. So he has a site now that he talks about his own personal observations and work and story and that sort of a site. And on the site, he puts some things where everybody can see, but on some of the things he puts where only members can see it. And the way he structured the membership is $1.50 per month is one membership fee you can pay. And it would be a recurring thing. So every month you take out $1.50, and it goes up to 100 different variables of money. Hey, Mashade, I see you. So that's, he's got this structure set up, and it's all the same. Everybody gets the same thing. You get the same access. So it's not even a tiered membership, but it's the same access. And as I'm looking through this, he isn't doing a hard sell, and it's like $1.50 a month is the membership that you can get on. He has 19,024 patrons, meaning that there's 19,024 people who are putting a minimum in of $1.50 a month, which I'm just like, that's 28,000 plus, a month that he has going to support himself on something that he loves to do, on something that he chose at that moment when he got fired to choose. What did we say about it? That he made it his goal from that moment forward to spend his time doing what brought him joy. He was tired of promising himself he would get to be creative and live the life he wanted to one day. I just go, I mean, there's sometimes we tell other people they can't earn a living from something that makes them happy. I just go, it's very cool that Chase Jarvis wrote this, followed up, and has this story to say, yeah, you can. I mean, it might not be pretty to begin with. It might take you on a different path. It might, sometimes it might explode in your face and you have to start over. But that there is the potential. I mean, he's getting that much money a month at the minimum from people, and I'm thinking, I'd give him $1.50 a month. I mean, it's like, that's so little to support somebody. And that's another fascinating idea. What if we all did that, where we all supported somebody for $1.50 a month on a recurring thing? That's another thought, another discussion. You might tell me what you think of it too. But, there's just those several thoughts, to go after joy in our lives. It's not spontaneous. It's, and his point, Chase Jarvis's point about Brandon Stanton was that he did a consistent practice of every day. And that it has evolved into something that has been an amazing thing in his life. So and that was sparked by he's going to go after joy. So that was the one. Consistent practice, creativity, and joy can be programmed and scheduled. Just several thoughts that I had from this. Now you guys probably will have some thoughts, so share your thoughts about this too, and the things that come up from your hearing these. But it's interesting to me too when I'm looking at this project that I'm doing, of doing a content video every day. And last night I was like, last night I was talking to the boyfriend, and I said, you know what, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing a video every day. I mean, there's no monetary value for me. There's no, there's nothing that way. But, then we talked about it, and he goes, well, I said I'm going to do it for a year. And he said, well, did you tell people? I said, yeah, I have mentioned it a couple times. And he goes, well, you got to do it then. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to quit. But sometimes when you're in the middle of doing something creative or doing something that you feel compelled to do, you don't know why you're doing it. You don't know where it's going. And sometimes it can be discouraging, and you have to revisit why you're doing it. For Brandon Stanton, I think he could revisit and say, because I want to pursue joy. For me, I'm thinking that it is teaching this project, maybe not anything about you guys, but it's really teaching me so much about me and what I think and how I feel about creativity and how important creativity is to me. I do absolutely think everybody should be creative. So I just think it's interesting to, go through those thoughts, think about those things, these stories, and thought you guys might find that interesting, and that we can, the creative tip to be able to seek joy in our lives. Maybe we don't have to give up all our jobs and everything else, but maybe we can make slight changes to look for joy and to consistently be creative, to make creativity a consistent practice, and whatever that looks like. Just like every family does, and the church is asked to do something with their family on Monday nights, it's however you want to do it. So whatever creativity and a creative practice looks like for you, that's what it is then. It's what you decide to make it. So I believe we should all be creative all the time. And I have found it brings, like I said, brings great joy. It makes me feel alive. Mashade says, I don't know what I love to do. I think about it, and I love to do a lot of things. You do love to. Mashade's my sister. So, and I know she is always doing things that are creative, demonstratively creative. So, and I think part of it is that she likes to do it herself, but it brings other people a lot of joy. And they love to see it, and they love to be a part of that. They can't do that themselves. Machine, they can't do that for themselves. But you do it for them, and they just relish in the joy that you've brought to them. Machade says, but don't want to have to do it if I don't want to, if that makes sense. Oh, I know you. It makes total sense. And I will just venture here because I'm considering trying to get an agent for my artwork and to rep me. So if anybody knows an agent, anything like that. So I've been considering it, and what really freaks me out about it, I'll be honest, is that to paint on demand, to do something I don't want to do. So do I understand you, Miss Shade? I certainly do. So that's one of my things that I'm trying to go through myself and think, would I do well doing that? So Shade says, I like making cakes, but wouldn't want to do it all the time. And I think that goes for a lot of people, that they like doing something, but once it fell into the work category, I have to do it, then it takes the joy out of it. I remember a man that we used to live by. He would do music and play his guitar and his banjo and just loved the music. And I asked him one time, why did you do this professionally? And he was like, no, it basically would take the joy out of it. So I think, we have to determine that. Shay said, so glad you gave me. I do. I totally. Um, and that's something too. I think we have to go through. I don't know what I love to do. I think you're doing a lot of what you love to do, but I think sometimes maybe you're thinking tying it to monetary, and sometimes I think Elizabeth Gilbert's book Big Magic. I think she addresses that we have other jobs to support our creativity. And maybe that's the way it has to be looked at. I mean, Brandon Stanton, his story is that his creativity is sustaining him. But on the other hand, plenty of people don't make their creativity what makes them, paying the bills. So I think we have to know ourselves and figure it out ourselves and figure out what our creative practice is. But I think if we're not finding joy on a regular basis, and having happiness be our set point, that after we have difficult times or adversity, that we get back to the happiness set point, which there's a video somewhere on here about that, then there's something that we need to reevaluate. That the method that we're choosing or we're living isn't quite the method that is going to bring about that joy that we're looking for. So I don't know, more thoughts, Michelle, that'd be great. Because it makes me think too about it. So that's enough for tonight, I think. So glad to hear your thoughts too. So you have a creative heartbeat. Remember to listen, and I will be back tomorrow. So bye for now.